Let's get back to Mike's Happy Hour Show with Mike and Hellcat.
And now it's time for Mike's Spotlight on Industry Leaders.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking with us for Mike's Happy Hour. We're going to be talking with JL Carpenter, attorney at law. This is a second interview we've done with her on Industry Leader Spotlight. This is something that I have a lot of passion for. I really like to put a spotlight on super talented people in our area, and all these spotlights are in the South Houston region. So JL, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Oh yeah, you got juicy stories. That's what I love to tell stories. So our show is partly about horror stories with a happy ending.
Well, we got some stories for you this week.
All right. So you're a criminal defense attorney, right?
That's right.
And you're located in Friendswood.
Located in Friendswood, and we defend folks in Harris County, Brazoria County, Galveston County, Fort Bend County, all the way up to Austin, Travis County, and those surrounding counties.
Okay. And what type of cases do you handle?
A lot of DWI defense, assault, family violence, drug possession. If you've been accused of a crime, we're likely your person.
Yeah, well, I just want to start the show up by saying, memorize this number, people, 713-201-6767, 713-201-6767, because if you're in jail, you're going to need it.
That's right. If you go to jail, call JL.
All right, so one of the things we're going to be talking about is I want to dig into some of these stories. You have some of the craziest stories, but today's show is focused on bad things that happen to good people, and these are perfect examples of this.
That's right, because we do represent folks who have been falsely accused of crimes.
Okay, so let's start off with now this is going to sound a little out there, but PCP DWI in Harris County?
That's right. So this man was actually a teacher in our prison system. He had never been in trouble before, and he and a friend of his went over to a woman's house, an older woman, to fix her refrigerator. And as they were leaving, something happened that caused him to...
Wait. This was a teacher in prison or in the prison system?
He was a teacher in the prison system.
So he was teaching in prison?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, not in the school districts.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and so no priors, never been in trouble. And as he's leaving this lady's house where he had just done a favor with his friend who's in the passenger seat, something happens. He loses control of his vehicle and he runs into the tree in the front yard.
Nice.
EMT's called, police are called. He's acting bizarre. They thought perhaps maybe it was a diabetic episode, but they ultimately take him to the hospital. And for whatever reason, the hospital records showed PCP preliminary testing for PCP in his blood, and they never sent it off to be confirmed. But he was like, JL, I wouldn't even know where to buy PCP. I don't even know what PCP looks like. Okay,
so is PCP like a hallucinogen?
I mean, my experience with it is that it turns you into like the Hulk. You can have like this aggressive, very strong behavior. But he was like, I don't even know what PCP looks like or where I would find PCP, but zero alcohol in his system. So ultimately, he was arrested for driving while intoxicated, and it was presumed PCP. But ultimately, when it was all said and done, they dismissed for insufficient evidence of intoxication.
Right, but there was also something else, the lab report, something about the lab report?
Yeah, because when you have a preliminary test, it needs to be confirmed by a lab, and in this case, that was not done.
So one of the reasons I like talking to you is because you're one of the top criminal defense attorneys. I mean, you make things sound simple, like a chef whipping up some pate or something, right? The challenge is that most people that get in these situations are hit like in the face with a baseball bat. They're shocked. They're locked in handcuffs. They're thrown in jail, and they don't know what to do, and they don't have lawyers on speed dial,
Right.
And so they're going to be assigned a public defender and to represent them. What's the process from there?
Well, unless they want to hire their own attorney. And so a lot of times it's by word of mouth that folks find their way to us.
Right. I mean, and you have a lot of attorneys that refer you these type cases, right?
Right.
So you specialize in this stuff. You're not a jack of all trades, a master of none, right?
You'll never see me practicing family law or civil disputes, only criminal defense.
Now, in this particular case, most of the time you're resisting jail time, long sentences. I mean, you're talking about life-changing situations.
Right. Because their freedom is at stake.
And the district attorney's office want to come in and cut a deal and have you admit that you did something that you might not have done.
No, not necessarily. I gotta give it to where it's due, because the prosecutors I tend to work with want to see that justice is done. And sometimes justice looks like a dismissal. Sometimes justice looks like not prosecuting that case. So if I can show our side, show the prosecutor, our defense, they'll look at it, they'll investigate it, and then if they determine that it's not one they want to go forward on, they'll dismiss it.
Yeah, but it's how you put the defense together that makes the compelling resistance to move forward.
Correct.
They didn't just wake up and have an epiphany.
No.
Right?
No.
Like, so in these particular cases, it's critical that you get competent, very talented lawyers that are both great in trial and great on the preparation side.
Yeah, and the fact that you say great in trial, that's a big key, because there's lots of lawyers out there that will take your money and sell you to a plea deal because they're afraid of trial. They're not real trial attorneys.
And that's where you get in trouble.
Right, because then if the prosecutors know that this is an attorney that has a reputation of not going to trial, they're not going to fear that element of going to trial.
Right. So chances are you're going to be signing a deal with them, some kind of deal, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
When you might be able to get completely out of it.
Or that kind of attorney will withdraw right on the eve of trial and make you go hire somebody else.
That sucks. Is that it? Can the judge allow that?
It's up to the judge.
Oh my
It
God.
depends on the reason.
I didn't even know that was possible. Okay. Learn something new every time I talk to you, girl. All right. So now this is horrific. And I can see how this can happen, especially today. A dad was accused by his daughter of sexual allegations.
Correct.
And they took this one to the mat.
Right. So this was what we call a continuous sex allegation, where with no priors, it's 25 to life, and there's no probation.
Oh, my God.
There's no parole. So if you're found guilty and the jury likes you, the minimum you're getting is 25 years, and that's day for day.
Wow.
Yeah. And in this case, the client came to me and he said, I don't even understand what's going on here. But his daughter had a mental health breakdown. She was hospitalized. And upon her discharge, she had said, oh, and by the way, my dad's been sexually molesting me. And she made an allegation of oral sex on a continuous basis when he would have her for his visitations during the summer, which was news to him. And this was apparently her allegation was years old. But she had already put his roommate away for a sexual allegation. And that roommate was already serving time. So when
she put his roommate out in jail?
In prison.
40 years.
40 years.
And daddy's next?
And daddy was next.
And they didn't see a problem with this?
So we went to, on the eve of trial, the prosecution offered to reduce it to aggravated sexual assault of a child, where you can parole, where you can do a portion of your time. You don't have to do all of it. And he said, as scared as I am of 25 to life and going to trial, I can't plead guilty to something I didn't do. So we had to go to trial. And in the end, the jury spent 1 hour deliberating before they found him not guilty. And after that happened, he said, I know for a fact now that my roommate is innocent. And he even said, I often thought during that time, well, I don't remember ever leaving my daughter alone with him, but he trusted the system. He trusted the authorities. He trusted that they knew more than he knew. But having had gone through this experience himself and then was acquitted, he knew he had to turn around then and help his roommate. So I researched the case and found out that roommate had a court-appointed attorney who billed the county for 1 hour of work.
1 hour to defend him for sex allegations from a child, and he's going away for 40 years, 1 hour?
And still serving that time right now.
How is that legal?
No.
And he's still serving the time? He couldn't get off?
No, he's still serving his 40 years right now. We're trying everything we can to work with appellate attorneys to try to get him, the justice he deserves, but it's a process.
Oh my God, that is brutal.
Yeah, it's very sad. And the thing is that, criminal defense attorneys have a bad rap like used car salesmen. Nobody wants us until they need us, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's important for the public to know that there really are people who are falsely accused of things that they did not do.
Well, I 100%, especially in assault cases, and especially with this child stuff, because I mean, if you go and put somebody's picture up on the news, and they even allege that, as far as everybody's concerned, you're guilty.
Right. Yeah.
Because.
And when I'm picking a jury in these types of cases, and the jurors come in, the potential jurors, it's usually a panel of 65 potential jurors, and they hear the allegation, they're like, because that's the first reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there are people that are doing this, but I mean, these kids these days are tuned into, resisting the parents and all this, and they know if they make that suggestion, what kind of issues that's going to create for the mom and the dad and the family.
Well, afterwards, I found out from the jury foreman that they all felt like she had been touched and abused. They just didn't feel like it was at the hands of our client. And also, I found out that she had told the prosecutors that she didn't even want to go forward or testify, but she felt like she had to.
Well, and so my question for that, what is the burden of proof to actually prove that that's happened? It's terrible if it's happening to kids, but I mean, what if a child is making a false allegation?
So that's a good question, because it only takes a low burden of probable cause to make the arrest. You make an allegation, the level for the arrest is probable cause. But then let's say you and I get in a dispute over business and you sue me in civil court. It's just 51%, a tipping of the scales that you have to prove to be able to win your case. Mm-hmm. Now let's say you think I'm a bad parent, you want to terminate my parental rights. That's clear and convincing evidence, so it's even higher. So when I'm picking a jury, I'll ask my potential jurors, like the moms, how sure do you want that evidence to be before someone can take your child away from you? I want them to be damn sure. Yeah, well, that's clear and convincing. So the burden of proof in a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt, because it's the highest burden of the land, because somebody's liberty and freedom are at stake.
Oh, literally.
Yeah.
25 to 40 years? Holy crap. Wow, that's serious.
Very.
And what on the DWI cases, let's talk about that, because there's so many of them around here. It's just insane. What is somebody's facing a DWI, right? So they get pulled over, they get accused of being drunk, they slap them in jail, they get bonded out. Now they're waiting on going to trial, right? So tell me kind of that process and what kind of jail time they're looking at and all. What's the whole picture with that?
So a DWI first, if you don't provide a breath or blood test, or if you do and it's under a 0.15, that's a Class B misdemeanor, punishable up to 6 months in the county jail and up to a $2,000 fine. If it's a DWI second, or you're greater than a 0.15, then you're looking at up to a year in county jail. If it's a third, or if it's even a first and you have a child passenger under 15, now you're looking at felonies. So it's a stair step. Yeah. But if you get a DWI, let's go with the DWI first, then you basically have two lawsuits on your hands. You have the criminal case in criminal court, but you also have a case regarding your driver's license and potential suspensions.
Okay.
So when you hire us, we handle both of those if you hire in time, because you only have 15 days from the date of arrest to appeal that license suspension. So it's really important that you find a DWI defense attorney pretty quickly upon your arrest, because if you miss that deadline, you could miss a potential hearing that could give you testimony in advance of the criminal case that could help you in the criminal matter.
Oh, interesting.
Make sense?
And if you miss that 15-day deadline, then they automatically suspend it, and now you're you're climbing a hill.
Right. Now you have to go pay for an occupational driver's license and all that jazz. So,
well, So if you find somebody that's in a felony DWI, what's the problem with that?
Well, obviously, if you can't get a deferred probation on a felony, which you can't on DWIs, then you're looking at a felony conviction, and it's 2 to 10 years and up to a $10,000 fine.
And if your child was in the car, now you're dealing with CPS.
Yeah. And also, if you take a probation on a felony DWI, you're going to have to do 10 days in county jail as a condition of that probation. So that's 10 days, day for day.
Wow.
Yeah. But recently, though, I had a young lady who had never been in trouble before, and she had a car accident in a bad construction area. But what was neat was that actually after the accident, when the police arrived, because they were going to just do a regular accident investigation, she's standing on the curb like a balance beam, and she's walking that curb like a balance beam in that roadway, and the officer's body cam catches another near miss accident that was similar, because the construction there was horrible. But my client, she has great balance. She doesn't sound slurred. She's very about herself. The officer has removed her vehicle, and then decides to do a DWI investigation. My client's very, she complies with everything. She's cooperative. She goes, gives a breath test, and it comes back at a 0.07. The legal limit's 0.08. So a lot of times I'll ask potential jurors, who thinks if you go cooperate with the police and give a breath test and you blow a 0.07, you're going home? And a lot of people think that you are. She did not.
Oh, my God.
She was
Get
arrested.
in the car, ma'am.
Yeah, she was arrested for DWI. She cried her eyes out. She was like, what? Because the law says you can drink and then drive. You just have to be under a 0.08. But by that point, the officer just told her, well, there was an accident and now I have to worry about my liability. So she arrested her for DWI and just was like, well, you'll have to sort it out later in the courtroom, which ultimately we did. That case is being dismissed.
So here's my question. If you get pulled over and you were having a few drinks, do you participate in the get out and follow my pencil? Or do you blow in anything? Or should you get out of the car? What should you do?
So you always have to be cooperative with law enforcement, or that's going to be another issue. But so I always say be polite and be cooperative. It's up to you if you want to do the standardized field sobriety test. They're not pass or fail. That's just a misconception. They're clues as to potential intoxication, but they are subjective. And so whether you do them or not, you're probably still going to jail. And if you don't do them, you're definitely going to jail. But if you decide that you don't want to do any of the standardized field sobriety tests, or you decide you don't want to give a breath test, or you decide you don't want to provide blood, those are your options, and you don't have to help the government prove a case against you. On the breath test, you can't go back and retest that. So once they do a sample, that's what's on paper, right? What if it's inaccurate? We can't go back and retest that.
Yeah, what if you're clumsy?
Yeah. I am.
And you can't walk a straight line. I mean, yeah, good point. Don't help them build their case. That's a good point. But you are going to take a ride, but it's 90% chance that's going to happen if they think you're drunk anyway.
Correct.
Well, thank you so much for your time. You're always fun to talk to. You got some of the coolest stories that I get to talk about. You can give this attorney a call at 713-201-6767. I highly recommend you remember that phone number just in case you might need it one day. 713-201-6767, or you can find them online at jlcarpenterlaw.com. JL, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Mike.
You're a hoot to talk to, girl.
Okay, now I've had enough fun for one day.
Thanks for hanging with us on Mike's Happy Hour Show.
Bye. I hope you liked it.
See you next week.